Good afternoon, everyone. Country Flyboy here, and more with Airport Design Editor. So I've showed you pretty much everything you need to be able to work on an airport. Everything else is just more of the same. Constantly editing, compiling, seeing how it looks, fine-tuning until you get it the way you want. It really only takes 2 or 3 tries once you get good at it. Today we're going to be talking about stuff other than the airport. We're going to be working on the surrounding Landclass. Mostly we're going to be talking about the types of Landclasses available to you that you can use. Alright, so what is Landclass? Well, if you could think of it, let me bring up Excel real quick to show you what I mean. Basically, FSX has a global model. If you could think of it like that, that right there is the base terrain. So, yeah, that right there is the base terrain, the actual model of the Earth. On top of that, they have what's called Landclass polygons, which I will put right here. Landclass polygons. Now, this decides what texture is shown. So when you're actually flying in flight, so when you look down out the window, down at the Earth, you see a texture, and that texture is the Landclass. The Landclass is what decides where a city is, what decides where water is, where woods are, where a farm is, all that fun stuff. On top of that, you'll have the vector data, which I will show in red. Then on top of that, your exclusion data that the airport has, like this right here, this airport background or the terrain exclusion. That gets shown on top of that. We'll represent that with yellow. Why not? And then on top of that, your airport background, which I'll put in green. Then on top of that, the scenery objects and what have you, which I will put in orange. That's the basic setup. It's more advanced than that, but that's basics right there. So the Landclass decides what shows up where. There's also vector data, which we'll talk about in a second. So we've already placed the Landclass polygon here, a cement one for our parking lot. Let's work on the wilderness around the airport. We can see this airport's completely surrounded by trees. We got a field here, so let's make this field first. Looks like it might be a graveyard, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the vector road first. A vector is just... The vector data is nothing more than a line. It's things in a straight line from point to point, and it can be a railway, a road, and you got several road options here, shorelines, streams, utility lines, stuff like that. That's the vector data. Now, this is what cars move on, although you can't actually get cars to show up with ADE. For some reason, it won't let you have freeway traffic. With ADE, that has to be compiled differently. So we're going to set this one, looks like a dirt road. We're going to set it to be a 1-lane, undivided dirt road. There we go. And we'll add a vector to it. Just like everything else, if you position the mouse over the line in the middle, hold down Control and click, you'll add a vector there. There we go. And we'll just draw the crossroads here. They're all dirt as well. Dirt, 1-lane, undivided. Just draw one. I think, can we copy these? Yes, we can copy them. So we will just paste the rest of these in. Like so. I'll shorten that one up a bit. This looks like it might be a graveyard, to be perfectly honest, not an open field. Not sure. So there are add-ons out there like Orbex Global, Orbex Vector, Ultimate Terrain X. Those add-ons mess with the Landclass. I say mess with it, they make it better. They'll add new Landclass types and all other sorts of fun things. But you, as the scenery developer, have no idea what your end user is going to have. So the best thing you can do is just set it up to work with default. And that's really all you can do, because you have no way of knowing what is there. Although you can pretty much safely assume if they're using a payware terrain add-on, or not terrain, terrain's different, a payware Landclass and vector add-on, like Ultimate Terrain X, like Orbex Vector, then or Open Landclass, then you safe bet these roads are here. So you may only have to work with the minor roads. We're going to draw the roads since we're building off of default. Alright, we're going to add this. We're going to make this a field since there's no graveyard Landclass by default. We'll just draw it. No need to be exact, and you don't even have to be perfect. In fact, I'd recommend not being perfect. We're going to make it go down to Landclass, and then you have all of the Landclass stuff available to you. Now, it shows you a little picture, but remember there are 4 seasons on this planet, and there are 4 seasons in Flight Simulator. These textures will actually change with the seasons. For example, let me find the top one here. The Airfield 1. This one will change to look more like Airfield 2 during the winter. In fact, I think they're the same thing. Airfield 1 is what shows up during the summer and the spring, and during the fall and winter, you get Airfield 2, where the grass is turned brown for some reason. That works for most places of the Earth, but in areas where I live, evergreen is the thing. It pretty much stays green all the time. So you got several different ones. Cement, broadleaf crops, black sand, beach, tundra, grasslands, all sorts of stuff. The hard part is knowing which type of land class is shown by default in a given area of the world. So here we have a lot of pine trees. Those are evergreen trees, but they're mixed in with oak as well, which are broadleaf trees. So we want to find something along those lines. Cold grasslands, boreal forest, conifer forest. It would help if you know forestry. I'm not a forester, so I don't know. Conifer forest. Cool broadleaf forest. I think this is the one that shows up in this area of the world where this airport is. I don't know. I've looked and looked and looked, but can't find an actual guide to which type of texture shows up where. I think it might be this one. I'm not sure. Mixed forest. Corn and bean cropland. Crop and water mix. Crops and towns. Crops and grass shrubs. Deciduous and mixed boreal forest. That might be it. We'll go with this one because this one looks correct. Deciduous and a mixed boreal forest. That's what we're going to use for the surrounding trees, but this is a field, so we're just going to go with grass for this one. Golf course, grass, right here. Here we go. Now everything else we can fill in as just boreal forest. Now note our satellite image has borders. We were only focusing on the airport when we got the satellite image, so we'll be drawing blind out here, but that's okay because I only like, when I'm doing Landclass, I only like to do the immediate area around the airport, and the other stuff is just going to have to be handled by the third party add-on or the default Landclass that the end user might have. So how do we do buildings, big old warehouses and stuff like this? Well, first thing we want to do is draw the Landclass around it. So we got cement right here. Let's draw the roads leading up to it. So we got a road, looks like a 2-lane asphalt heading here. 2-lane because there's going to be trucks on it. It's undivided. And we'll draw from here, doop, 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 all the way down to here. This is going to be our 2-lane undivided as well. Now here we have a 2-lane divided median. That divided thing refers to the median of the road. So we're going to go with 2-lane divided. So it will actually divide the median between the two. And then that goes into a 2-lane undivided, looks like. So it's like a 1-lane undivided, but we'll draw 2-lane undivided. Just move it around here. Put it there. There we go. 2-lane undivided. And there we got our road. And we would fill in the other land class around it. Let's go ahead and draw this road here. Let's just draw it up to here, though. We'll put boop, 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 boop. There we go. 1 lane. We'll make this one 2 lanes undivided. And we'll draw another one here for 1 lane undivided. Got a dirt road here, heads off in some other direction. So this looks like a warehouse. So we have to place a warehouse object. Now, we could use library objects. There are warehouse ones, but they're not very big. And they're hard to find. I think they're in the autogen, and they're down towards the bottom. Yeah, warehouse, long, warehouse, cell. But I don't have any way of knowing what those look like until I put them in the sim, or if I have thumbnails for them. What I like to do for buildings that are going to be a little further away from the airport is to use the generic building library. Down here at the bottom, they got several warehouses. Just remember that the generic buildings are all perfect rectangles, which is fine given that this is pretty much a perfect rectangle here. Let's go with this one, see how it works, see that it's entirely too small. Delete it and go with the one right above it, which I'm pretty sure is bigger. This one right here. Oh yeah. That's better. So we can make this bigger if we, well, let's see, it's about 500. We'll leave the length alone, but we'll up the width to 350. There we go, that's better-ish. Just plop that, we'll line it up a bit. Copy, and we'll just paste them right over top of one another. They're going to overlap a bit. This will lead to a bit of a finicky thingy. Right here where they come together, the roof is going to flicker. That's fine. No one ever pays it any attention, and you can get very good-looking buildings. You want to be careful about how big and small you resize these, because the texture does not change with the width. The texture has been hard-coded to the default length and width of that object. Oops. So, again, if we place it, the regular one here, this is how big it is by default. That's what the texture is going to be set for. So when you resize it, the texture is actually going to stretch. It's not going to change with the building. So you can get really weird looking buildings if you resize them too much. Alright, that basically covers the placement of Landclass. Let's talk about, we can fill in the rest of these just by sort of looking. Let's talk about Waterclass. Waterclass is a type of Landclass, except as you might imagine, it controls water, and we place it the exact same way. So here we got a little pond over here. We're just going to draw along its edge, like so. It's going to look a bit jagged because, again, we're playing with straight lines and vertexes here. Then we'll go to Waterclass and see you have several different water classes to pick from. Bay, Harbor, and Canal Channel. Each one has a perennial and non-perennial version. We're going to go with default, since this is a little pond, so I'll just go with default perennial. It most likely is perennial. I don't think I've ever seen a non-perennial pond in this area of the world, so we're not done, though. We need to place a vector around this, because this is going to look weird as hell in the simulator if you just go land and it goes straight to water if there's no vector to border it. So what we do is we draw a vector along the edge of this pond of ours. This is going to make the transition from the Landclass to the water a hell of a lot smoother. It's going to look way nicer. Put one here, 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 and here. And we're just going to go with shoreline, default, boom. It does cut off a bit of the water, but that's fine. We don't need it to be exact. This looks like a racetrack, like one of those little go-kart tracks, but they got trucks on it. I wonder if that's where they test trucks or something. Maybe it's a driving school. Alright, so that is how you handle Landclass and Waterclass and vector data. So I really can't offer any more. From here on out, from this video on, we're going to get into some more advanced stuff. just remember, pretty much everything with working with ADE is just trial and error, seeing what works and messing with it. You compile, see how it looks in the sim, and then edit, compile, see how it looks, edit, compile, see how it looks until you get it to where you're happy with it. Then you can zip it up and send it off. Ship it out. Alright, so I'm gonna finish working on the surrounding Landclass, and then we're gonna see how everything looks in the sim. Alrighty, so here we are at Vidalia, Georgia again. I've compiled the scenery. I've done working on the Landclass. Let's go into top-down view and see how everything looks. Alright, so we got our cement showing up here. Looks like all the roads I drew are showing up. All of the cement Landclass is showing up like it should. Some of it's being overwritten. I'll have to work on some of that. So, the order in which you draw the Landclass does matter. Let me bring up ADE and minimize Flight Sim. So if you look over here, note that area. Big area of grasslands and shrubs. And that is right over here. If I, you can see there's other Landclasses here. If I get rid of this one real quick, you can see I've drawn what is supposed to be baseball fields. I got a grass polygon here, dirt polygon here, dirt, grass, cement for the parking lot. I drew these first, and that's where I screwed up. You should have drawn, and then I overdrew it with this one, which was going to be the surrounding area. And whatever you draw last is what shows up on top. So I should have drawn that. I should have drawn these last. I should have drawn the surrounding area first, then these on top of it. You can make Landclass transparent just like aprons, so don't worry about that. So I will fix this by doing it the hard way. But the same over here. I drew some cement underneath this one. Alright, so yeah, order in which you draw things matters. Alright, let's go check out some of the water areas that we placed. So if we zoom in here, you can see that we're a little bit jaggy, but our shoreline that we put around it is definitely helping out a bit to make it blend in with the Landclass a bit better. As a comparison, I have a lake over here. Give me a second to find it. That I drew without placing a shoreline around it. I don't think I placed a shoreline around it, or did I? No, I did. Shoot. Check that out, though. I stopped the shoreline here and up here to put a cement Landclass over it, so it looks like you got a bit of a dock. There's a neat little trick, huh? But you can sort of see what I'm talking about. If you have Landclass and it goes straight to Waterclass, it's just a crisp, straight line, as opposed to putting that shoreline there. It's a little bit jaggy. It looks more natural. So do note things like that. Put shorelines, unless you want to go for the dock effect like I got going on here. Looking around it, I didn't put any Landclass for trees and whatnot, so we're going to have to go back and do that to get the Landclass to show up exactly right, because it looks like it's got farmland around here by default. Our graveyard shows up nicely. I think that's what that is. I don't know. I doubt it, since it leads right into the airport. I don't know what it could be, though. All of our roads are showing up appropriately. Edits that we've made to the airport are showing up like they should. Everything's still there. So from here on out... Oh yeah, I want to show you this. This is what the different helipads look like. Remember, we placed 3 helipads. We placed a default helipad, an H with a square. That's what that looks like. These are best placed on the ramps. Then we have these. These are best placed on the ramps. Now, some of these do have a concrete base. This particular one doesn't, but this one is lit by default. And then we placed this one, which we drew with the GP objects. As you can see, it looks nice. It looks very nice. Dark asphalt with an H in the middle. Lovely. Again, none of those are lit. Only that middle one there that has no backing on it, that's just sort of painted lines on the grass, this one here. This is the only one that's lit by default. Wrong button. All our parking tees look good. Our lines show up, stops halfway through the darn thing. We can fix that. Yep, I'd say everything looks nice. So we can start getting into the more advanced stuff of the airport, things like the comm radios and approaches. That'll be for the next video. Until then, hope you enjoyed it, and just remember that building these airports is all trial and error. Placing things, seeing how they look, and then editing them, recompiling, placing again, yada yada yada. So, hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next video.